All right, very good. Looks like we did have a few folks slip in there just after the top of the hour. My name is Christopher Chung. I'm with the Economic Development Partnership of North Carolina. I have the privilege of serving as CEO of the organization that is helping to host today's roundtable webinar discussion. This is part of our Onward as One roundtable series where we're focusing on support services for existing businesses in North Carolina. Of course, today's webinar is focused on the Charlotte region, what we call the Southwest region of North Carolina. Today, throughout the webinar, my colleagues I know are going to be keeping an eye out for some great insights and information from our different panelists, and we will be posting that to our social media platform. We certainly encourage all of you to do the same thing if you happen to hear something that's particularly relevant for your network or information that you'd like to share with businesses that you think would be benefiting from getting that information but weren't able to attend today's webinar. We also encourage you to go ahead and post on your different social media platforms. Just go ahead and do that under the hashtag Onward as One that you see on the screen there in front of you, and that'll make sure all of those tweets and LinkedIn posts and all that stay nicely grouped together. I'm going to turn it over here in just a few seconds to Laura Four from the Charlotte Regional Business Alliance. The Charlotte Regional Business Alliance is helping us co-host today's webinar discussion. Before, like I said, I hand it off to Laura, we're going to go ahead and show a quick 60-second spot. Again, this is part of our Onward as One current campaign that we're doing right now to really engage with existing businesses across the state with the hopes that we can help them with their future growth plans right here in North Carolina. So we're going to go ahead and roll that 60-second clip. And when we come back, I'll hand things off to Laura from the Charlotte Regional Business Alliance. Thank you.
Good morning, North Carolina. It's a new day. Across the state, we're opening up doors, setting up shops, and bringing in first shifts. We're putting in the work to forge ahead. And with the help of the Economic Development Partnership of North Carolina, we move onward as one, making connections, sparking collaboration, providing guidance. North Carolina businesses aren't just enduring, but achieving. From major cities to small towns, the future is just getting started. Our sheer will to build a thriving state has always been and always will be what keeps us ahead. And we're building the North Carolina of tomorrow today. North Carolina businesses like yours can reach their full potential with EDPNC's COVID recovery resources, grant and loan expertise, startup counseling, export assistance, and workforce development. North Carolina, let's move onward as one. See you in the morning.
Thanks so much, Chris. Good afternoon, everyone. I am Laura Four with the Charlotte Regional Business Alliance. And on behalf of the Alliance and the Economic Development Partnership of North Carolina and our teams, I want to thank you. Thank you for joining us today and welcome you to today's webinar. We're excited to be joined by Christopher Chung and the Economic Development Partnership of North Carolina to provide some perspective on COVID-19 recovery. We've got a distinguished panel and a packed agenda today. We're going to hear stories of resilience from companies all across the Charlotte region. We're going to discuss economic challenges and opportunities as we look to recover from this pandemic. And we're also going to explore some of the valuable counsel and services that our friends at EDPNC provide and help businesses, both big and small businesses, through recovery and beyond. So let me briefly introduce you today to our participants, to our panelists. We have Chris Chung, who is the CEO of the Economic Development Partnership of North Carolina. We have VIJAY AMIRTHARAJ, who works in new business development with Premier Fibers. George Brinzy is president of Mammoth Machine and Design. And then my good friend Rod CRIDER, president and CEO of the Rowan County Economic Development Commission. We also have joining us John Loyak, who is the vice president of Global Business Services for EDPNC. And last but definitely not least, we have Melanie O'Connell Underwood. And Melanie is the existing industry expansions manager for EDPNC's Southwest region, or as we all like to say, the Charlotte region. Melanie is a veteran in the Charlotte region of economic development. And if you're an existing business and existing industry here in the Charlotte region, and you have not had the opportunity to meet Melanie, I encourage you to connect with her. She's a fantastic resource for business and industry here in the region, and we are so fortunate to have her on our team. So you will get to hear from her later this afternoon. So with that, let's just jump right into it. I want to kick us off by allowing our panelists the opportunity to give a brief organizational update. What's your organization doing or seeing in light of the pandemic? And Chris, I want to start with you. Tell us about what EDPNC is seeing during this time.
Sure. Thanks, Laura. And again, I really appreciate you carving out time from your schedule to help us host today's discussion. A lot of people who are familiar with our organization probably have only heard about one aspect of what the EDPNC does, and that's specifically in the realm of recruiting companies in from outside the state to set up here in North Carolina. Obviously, Laura, we work a lot with the Charlotte Regional Business Alliance on pursuits like that, as well as local partners like ROD. And to be sure, the Charlotte region, Southwest North Carolina, whatever you want to call it, has had a lot of success on that recently. That could be companies like Evans Food Group over in Cleveland County, FITT, the Italian company up in Iredell, Prime Beverage up in Cabarrus, and of course, Centene Corporation and what they're doing right there in Charlotte and in Mecklenburg County. A lot of that success in business recruitment statewide and in this region, of course, continues to owe to things like the positive perception and business climate reviews that this region and that North Carolina as a whole receive. But other parts of our mission at EDPNC are in areas like international trade assistance, helping companies, of course, to grow their exports, or driving more tourism and leisure travel in North Carolina. And we know that some of those sectors are perhaps not doing as well in spite of the pandemic. And you look at something like tourism, for example. Obviously, Charlotte gets a lot of business tourism in that region, and with very little business travel, conventions, conferences, meetings, we're certainly seeing that take a hit on things like tourism spending in this region, and of course, all across North Carolina. Now, because even though Charlotte as a whole, I think, has been doing very well on some of these things like attracting new corporate investment in spite of the pandemic, we certainly don't want to take for granted that the companies in the region today are all doing fine as is. We know that many of them are trying to work their way through this really challenging situation. And that's really the point of today's webinar. EDPNC, through our existing industry team, which is going to be the focus of today's discussion, we've assisted thousands of businesses over the past 5 or 6 years, but that's really just a small fraction of the total companies that call North Carolina home. So really, with discussions like today, our goal is to shine a light on the ways that we can assist those companies that maybe we've never been in touch with, but are interested in the different resources and support programs that might enable their future growth. Like you said, Melanie O'Connell Underwood, she's our person in this region. She does a great job, as you'll hear from some of our other companies. But we really want more companies who have never met Melanie, never engaged with her, but might be interested to see if there are ways that we could be of service to you all, the businesses that create jobs and make investment. And so again, I think we're looking forward to seeing and hearing some of these great stories today from the companies within the region that Melanie has assisted in the past.
Thanks so much, Chris. John, anything that you want to add from the perspective of you and your existing industry team?
Thanks, Laura, and good afternoon, everyone. I just want to second what Chris said about Melanie O'Connell Underwood and her work here in the region. The one thing I always hear from people after they meet Melanie is that they wish they had met her before. So if you don't know her yet, I recommend to our audience of anyone from the business community that's on today, please do reach out after this call and get to know her. We know that every day brings a different challenge to your businesses, and Melanie is a link to countless business services and resources needed to navigate the good times and the bad. She advises businesses, both large and small. She covers all industries. And the best part is these services are available to the businesses that we support at no cost. So whether it's dealing with the challenges presented by COVID, or if you're looking to expand in the region, or set up new export markets, EDPNC is here to help. With that, I'd love to turn things over to Melanie so she can introduce herself as well. Melanie?
Thank you, John. As they've said, my name's Melanie O'Connell Underwood. The Southwest Prosperity Zone I've worked with since 2016, and it is the 10 counties around the Charlotte center city. So I go as far west as Cleveland County, Gaston County, to the east, Anson County, so Stanley and Anson County, all the counties that do touch Charlotte. So I've got a really fascinating region with thousands of businesses.
Thanks, Melanie. And I know we're going to hear from you again in a little bit, but again, I know we've all said it a couple of times now, but please, if you're an existing industry in the Charlotte region, particularly a manufacturer or distributor, please reach out to Melanie. She's got some fantastic ideas and resources, and will just be a tremendous asset to you and your teams. VIJAY, your business, Premier Fibers, you guys have been resilient during COVID. Can you give us some background on your organization and maybe some challenges that you've seen?
Sure. First of all, I'd like to thank everyone on the panel for not only including Premier Fibers in this discussion, but also for your support throughout the years. Laura, in response, Premier Fibers is a manufacturer located in Ansonville, North Carolina, and we've been in operation since 1981. We produce synthetic yarns that go into a wide variety of end uses, including apparel, footwear, parachutes, tents, flags, and even dental floss, to name a few. So Premier, like so many businesses, experienced an extreme downturn in revenue due to canceled orders, customer shutdowns, and global budgetary concerns. As a continuous operation, and one deemed essential for government defense contracts, we were fortunate to remain open throughout the pandemic. However, we had to significantly minimize overall production and reduce funding for our labor force and operational resources. So though we were really careful, we still built inventory and experienced around a 60% reduction in overall business. Even still, with all that, we were very grateful that we were able to kind of float through, as many businesses were not so fortunate.
We are glad that you guys are making it, and we hope that 2021 proves to be a better year for you and for all of us, VIJAY. So thank you for that. George, so give us some perspective, give us some background on Mammoth and how resiliency during COVID has been part of your story and the challenges that you've seen over the past year.
Thank you, Laura. Mammoth, and we appreciate the opportunity to be a part of this very important roundtable discussion. Mammoth Machine and Design is an engineering manufacturing firm that focuses support on the automated manufacturing community. Primarily, we are in the single-use plastics industry and textiles industry, but the services that we offer are across the board. If it's a mechanical machine, we can help support that, the operation. We support our clients through a contingency for critical wear parts. Given the pandemic, we've seen a huge supply chain disruption. We've seen companies that thrive in this industry to provide, PPE or other products associated, are having a hard time getting what they need to support the growth. And we focus on identifying areas in which we can help promote that growth. And that's usually through providing critical parts that are very hard to source. We've just, in all this, as a small company, thank goodness we're lean enough and agile enough to adjust very quickly. And we had to reevaluate, trim some fat, stop some programming that we were focused on, and then, really put all of our eggs in one basket. And it was definitely our replacement parts business. So, like everyone, we've seen a change in our scope as to who we are as a business. And, luckily we made some good decisions early on, and it's allowed us to flourish. Thank you.
Thank you, George. And again, best of luck and continued success to Mammoth. Rod CRIDER, let's talk a little bit about the local perspective. What are you seeing in Rowan County?
Sorry about that. So I think what we're seeing, Laura, is a mirror of what Chris described at the state level. We have sectors here that have been hurt pretty hard by COVID, and we've had other sectors that have continued to thrive throughout the COVID crisis. And so it's been really kind of remarkable for us to see all the innovation and creativity that's been demonstrated not only by local businesses like George's and VIJAY's to adapt and to learn how to survive through this, but also the organizations that serve companies like theirs, including the Alliance and the EDPNC, how we've had to adjust to kind of a new environment, and which is called for the creation of new programs, new services, all that had to be deployed very quickly without a lot of experience and without a lot of additional resources, all while still trying to accomplish all the things that were a regular part of our plate on a daily basis. So we've been fortunate in that with the help of Melanie and others at EDPNC and at the Alliance to continue to do well here, particularly in the traded sector portion of our economy. We've seen a lot of growth. Our activity level has just last month reached the same levels that we saw last year. So we feel like we're coming out of this, and we'll finish our year, which ends in June, pretty strong. But we've attracted some great projects. Integral is one company we just announced last month or last week. And Hinkle is a global company that's expanding here. We have probably half a dozen expansions that are undergoing right now.
Thanks for that, Rod. And, you know, from a regional perspective, I really echo Rod's comments. First of all, I would like to say that I'm so proud that the Charlotte region has shown and proven its resiliency during this pandemic. So many companies, you know, have pivoted and began manufacturing critical PPE, and seeing this region really band together during these dark days has been a bright spot. So I'm very proud of our region. Just a few other quick observations. Project activity has slowed for us overall since the pandemic, but the fundamentals that that make Charlotte a great place to be still remain, and that's what's going to see us through and put us in a favorable position as we come out of the pandemic. FDI and the office sector have been hit really hard. But industrial has still been pretty active. And in fact, in November, we saw our strongest industrial month of the year as far as projects go. So we're starting to feel some more optimism. We look at de-densification. We're seeing areas like with dense markets like New York and San Francisco. Folks are starting to leave some of those high density areas and come to places like the Charlotte region, which also helps us to continue to grow our talent pool. Opportunities are emerging. You know, the single largest announcement in North Carolina's history happened during the pandemic when Centene announced that they were going to place their regional headquarter and tech hub here in Charlotte. That's going to create 3,200 jobs and bring $1 billion in investment, and that's billion with a B. So that's fantastic news. And as Rod just mentioned, you know, only a few days ago, Integro Technologies announced an expansion in Rowan County. So while it has definitely been a very hard year, there have definitely been bright spots. And from a regional perspective, we are very optimistic about the future of not only the Charlotte region, but North Carolina as a whole. We're very fortunate to live in this great state and work here. So from a regional perspective, we definitely know that there's been some dark days, but there is a light at the end of the tunnel, and we are optimistic. So following up on that, I want to ask Chris, how can our region and the state as a whole position themselves for future growth in light of this pandemic? What are some of the challenges and opportunities for the Charlotte region and North Carolina in general?
Sure. It's a good question, Laura. I mean, this is now our sixth webinar in an 8-webinar series as we go all around the state. And I think we're constantly reminded of just how economically diverse North Carolina is, which I think is a blessing because it means we're not over dependent on any one particular sector. And I think that maybe that's very different than North Carolina was 30, 40 years ago. So we've seen a diverse economy all across the state. I think at a state level, it still boils down to some of the basic blocking and tackling, like education and infrastructure. I think those two are still always going to be the keys to continuing the positive momentum that North Carolina has had, and of course, that the Charlotte region itself has had from an economic standpoint. Education is basically the way we continue cranking out the workforce and talent that all of these companies need, whether that's Mammoth, whether that's Premier Fibers, whether that's Centene. Every company depends on having access to the best quality human capital that they can hire and keep. And education is the way that we keep producing that in North Carolina. Infrastructure, of course, for a lot of our manufacturing companies, making sure goods can be moved with relative ease. That depends on a strong physical infrastructure. But infrastructure also includes things like broadband connectivity. You know, I think the Charlotte region as a whole scores better on that, but you know, there are places in North Carolina where broadband access to education, to healthcare, to telecommuting, still not where it needs to be for us to realize our full potential. Within the region itself, I think some things that, the air industry, we all know, has suffered one of the most significantly through the pandemic. People just aren't traveling for work or for leisure. And, Charlotte Douglas Airport is such a huge part of the economic well-being and future of this region. I mean, we joke all the time that even our South Carolina partners will tout Charlotte Airport because it's the airport that people will fly into to get into a good chunk of South Carolina. So it is an economic engine, and we've got to make sure that that sort of asset continues to be strong heading into the future, because it's going to be a key aspect of how Charlotte rebuilds parts of its economy heading forward. You talked about talent, Laura, and just making sure that the area is also welcoming and receptive to people who move in from the outside. Charlotte region as a whole doing really well in attracting population growth that's not organic. It's people relocating or migrating there. And whether they're coming and living in a south end of Charlotte, or if they're choosing one of the other ex-urban areas in the region, I always love the example of Cleveland County and their Charlotte's Backyard campaign. I think that's a great way to play on the name brand recognition of Charlotte, but also recognize that there are plenty of diverse options within the Charlotte region for people to live, work, and play. And I think that variety and diversity that the region offers, that's certainly something that, as you all continue to tout, that's going to be, help lead to more success for the region when we're well past this pandemic. And hopefully that light is at the end of the tunnel coming up here in the next year. So we will get past all this. And I think Charlotte, like you said, Laura, the fundamentals are still very, very strong for the entire region.
Thanks for that, Chris. And I echo your comments about taking this time to really make sure that we have good education in place. It wasn't that long ago that North Carolina was always referred to as the education state. And we may not be referred to that as now, but I still think we have so much to be thankful for, such great educational institutions all across North Carolina. And just can't say enough about that. And I agree with you. I love that the Cleveland County's Charlotte's Backyard campaign. They did a phenomenal job with that marketing campaign. They won a lot of awards and were recognized for that. So congratulations to Kristen and her team in Cleveland County. That was a great project. Let me pivot a little bit here and let's go to VIJAY. So VIJAY, tell us some of the ways that you've worked with EDPNC to navigate through business challenges during this pandemic. And why should other organizations and businesses connect with EDPNC?
Sure. So from the onset of the pandemic, Melanie and I have been in direct contact. She reached out almost right away, checking on the status of our business and how EDPNC could help. So a lot of businesses early on in the pandemic received PPP or SBA funding, but because of our corporate structure, we didn't qualify for that. Even though our specific facility in Ansonville only has 175 employees, our global corporation is larger. So we exceeded that, even though specifically our company could have really used it. And so Melanie actually brought to our attention a job retention grant in late August. I think it was due like right at the 1st of September. So we didn't have a lot of time to turn it around, but we were able to do that, and we were able to receive some funding, which was really helpful, and we were really fortunate for that. And if it hadn't have been for Melanie and the EDPNC, we would have never even realized that. I don't think we got any notifications from any other organizations or the state government or any other options. So that was a really big boost for us during a really tough year that we talked about already. Not only just the funding, the direct funding, which was great for operational and manufacturing and everything. We were also introduced to the international trade team with the benefits that they offer. So in terms of new business development, I'm in charge of a lot of sectors of marketing and attending trade shows or discussing new projects with customers, all the way from our direct customers to brands. And obviously with no trade shows in place and occurring, a lot of things have been put on hold or canceled. And so we were missing out a lot of opportunities that we were used to in previous years, things that we were just very accustomed to. So with meeting with the trade team, they presented to us how we could be able to receive some funding for marketing materials, for virtual trade shows, websites, and other opportunities in NAFTA, CAFTA countries where we are definitely pushing towards, but we didn't have as strong as a foothold. And so that's really helpful helpful to us. So specifically, EDPNC was able to create some connections and help foster those relationships. So that was a big asset. I guess those are specific to, pandemic and things that were due to COVID or reactions to that. But in the past, Melanie also helped us. We connected with the Anson County Economic Development Commission and worked with them to engage the Economic Development Administration to work with us and the town of Ansonville to work on obtaining some funding to expand the municipal wastewater facility, which has been an issue between the town of Ansonville and our facility as the largest consumer and producer of wastewater. So that was a really interesting relationship and opportunity that we had. It's still on hold with everything, the economic challenges that we're having and the town and the county is having. It's not really the ideal time to move forward with that, but the fact that we were even able to create those relationships and those opportunities through EDPNC was really beneficial. And, it's something that we wouldn't have expected any type of assistance from governmental, private, nonprofit, whatever. That would normally be something that we would have felt the full brunt and responsibility for, and being able to have an ally with EDPNC was really beneficial for that. So I think the key here is for businesses to create a relationship with whoever their EDPNC rep is and be open and honest and what you need as a business to succeed, to thrive, or something that you're missing, because Melanie's really there to help, and I'm sure all the other representatives in different counties are really, like, their main goal is to help businesses succeed. And so that's just really, I think, the key point pandemic or pre-pandemic that that I'd like to make sure everybody's aware of.
Thanks so much for that, VJ. And I echo a lot of what you said. We are very fortunate in North Carolina to have Chris at the helm, and he has put together such a fantastic team all across the state. So thanks again for that, VJ. And again, thanks Melanie, Chris, John, and your fantastic team for what, not only what you do here in Charlotte, but what you do across the state from Murphy to Manteo. We are definitely blessed in North Carolina to have this rock star group working on all of our behalf. So thank you for that. George Brenzy, let's talk about Mammoth. Talk to us about your relationship with EDPNC, particularly during the pandemic.
We would have certainly missed out on some very great opportunities for our company, highlighted and brought to us by Miss Underwood. She has been, I call her a partner. I call the organization a partnership to us, and it's just been a huge resource before the pandemic, and as we've gone through it. She has engaged us several times to check in, to just see if we need anything. You know, especially now more than ever, you know, the more resources you can bring into your organization, the better. And, you know, the EDPNC is a one-stop shop. You know, we've seen some good connections. Melanie has gone out of her way to think outside of the box as to who and what we could help and benefit from. So as you know, to VJ's points, you know, it's just an amazing resource to have, and all of the businesses that have engaged EDPNC, I know, would say the exact same thing. During our transition from Huntersville to Mooresville, before we were even finished, Melanie had already connected us to the Rowan County EDC, to the Mooresville Chamber, and just pretty much had everything laid out on a silver platter for us. So it saved us a lot of time and effort. And you know, I think as we continue to grow, we'll lean on her to help us out with some market research, just understanding who is out there that she is already engaged with that we can help. So, you know, we just can't thank EDPNC enough for, you know, taking us as a new business, as a startup under their wing, and really helping us grow. So thank you.
Thank you for that, George. We appreciate it. So let's turn now to Rod. So tell us a little bit, Rod, discuss with us how Rowan County Economic Development and your relationship with EDPNC.
Again, I think I know this by now. Anyway, we rely upon them for so much, everything from you know, the lead generation work that they do at the state level, to the project management that they provide us with on those leads, and down to Melanie, who, you know, we have featured as the 5th member of our staff here at the Rowan EDC, because we rely upon her so much, and all of the, like George and VJ have both said, she just is a wealth of information. She's always reaching out to local businesses, reaching out to us to make sure that we're aware of programs, to make sure that we're utilizing existing programs that she might think we're not utilizing to the extent that we could be, and then just partnering with her on as many things as we can do as a local organization to help support local businesses. Things like the Supply Chain Expo that's coming up. It's a Stream 2021 that is coming up in February, which we're partnering with both of you on to deliver to our local manufacturers, to help them with some of the supply chain issues that George talked about. That this has been a real challenge for some of our existing businesses here, and to solidify their supply chain so that they can continue to grow. And programs like this, where we can bring people together, are very helpful. We have noticed in our own outreach to local businesses that one of the biggest benefits that we can provide is connecting them to other businesses in the region that they could utilize as suppliers. And we often find that there might be, somebody across town or across the county that could be supplying them when they're getting that product or service from somebody out of state. So being able to make those connections is really important to us. And we can't say enough about the role that EDPNC plays for us, and specifically Melanie, in helping us advance our economic growth efforts here in Rowan.
Thanks, Rod. Yeah, I echo your comments. We are definitely fortunate in the state and region to have partners like those at EDPNC. And the Economic Development and Partnership of North Carolina is a primary partner of the Charlotte Regional Business Alliance. We work projects together. We engage in cooperative marketing and lead generation activities. Additionally, we can share best practices, and we talk through regional and state issues to create solutions that are really going to drive results in not only the Charlotte region, but in North Carolina. So we are very appreciative of our partnership and friendship with EDPNC. And Rod touched on something specifically that we're really looking forward to. A partnership in 2021 is STREAM, which is going to be a supply chain expo for regional manufacturers here in the Charlotte region. And it'll take place in February. I think Melanie may talk a little bit about that later, but I would be remiss if I didn't mention that. I would encourage all manufacturers in the Charlotte region to get connected with STREAM and participate. It's going to be just a fantastic event for our region. So Melanie, let's turn to you and spend a little time talking to you. Other than helping businesses through COVID during the pandemic, what other services can you provide existing businesses in the Charlotte region?
Thank you, Laura, and thank you so much for hosting our panel. VIJAY, Rod, and George, each of you, thank you for taking time. I didn't pay them to say this, but you hit one of the most precious words to my heart, which is relationship and partnering. And that's how economic development is successful. So thank you very much. So to Laura's question, I'd like to give you some examples of how we help businesses. My role in existing industry is to work with those businesses that are already here in the region. What are their challenges? What are opportunities? Can I connect you to services in the state that are available? These are companies that are providing jobs, they're providing tax base, they're growing, or even perhaps they're shrinking and they need help getting through shrinking so that they can grow again. These are the small businesses, and these businesses and existing companies are the ones who really bring the most jobs to North Carolina. So that's why my team is here. I'd like to tell you about a few examples that to me get me very excited when we can have success stories and partner. Not too long ago, we worked with a company that bought a very dilapidated building. It was in a larger urban city, but it was a dilapidated building. We were able to work with Department of Commerce to get a building reuse grant. Because of this, their city there stepped in to also do sidewalks and street repairs, and that county is so excited because they think it's going to be the catalyst to revitalizing a whole dilapidated neighborhood. We helped recently a company that makes copper billets get a building reuse of $360,000, which will help them in renovating an existing space. We had a clothing manufacturer during the beginning of the pandemic that was sewing. They reached out to me and said, Melanie, we can sew, but we can sew anything. We don't have to make the clothing. We can make surgical gowns and surgical booties. How do we get started? So I connected this company to the North Carolina Textile District, NC State's Industrial Expansion Solutions, the Division of Health, DHHS, that has the inventory and the list of companies making and providing, and they're still doing safety garments today. I had a very small, no, it wasn't a small business. It was a family-owned business, but of 100 employees, technically small, but 100 employees in the construction business. They were applying for their personal protection loan and got an error in the application. They could not get the application to reopen because there was an existing application, but they couldn't get it to submit. They didn't know what to do and was referred to me. I was able to connect this company to a live person during the PPE applications at the SBA office in Charlotte. Because of this, they were able within one day to get that application submitted with help. And they came back to me. I'm very proud to say that this loan made a difference in them staying open or closed, and they are open and thriving now. Pre-COVID, I visited one of our companies in Cleveland County, one of our tier 1 counties that makes ball bearings. And I took the international trade team with me. I opened their eyes to things they had no idea about. They've now since taken advantage of our STEP program. They've been to Japan, they've been to Europe, they got new contracts. Now they're doing research and using the STEP program to help them revitalize their website while it's down in the COVID. In the past few months, I've worked with a manufacturer of a food company that wants to expand. It's a sizable expansion, but they are not connected to municipal sewer. This sewer is $4 million to get it to them. I have worked with the local economic development, the city, and the county to give them some ideas they had not thought of yet. So we are connected with the Golden Leaf, the North Carolina Electric Cooperative's Red Leg Grant, as well as working with them who are already engaged with the surrounding property owners, but there was city property not far away, to see if we can extend to multiple users. And there's a good chance that this is going to happen to enable this expansion. I made too many examples, so let me just jump on down to a couple of the lower ones. One of my favorites is there's a company that makes cotton balls, cotton swabs. When I visited them, they had a warehouse of remnants of cotton. It was literally a fire hazard, and they didn't know what to do with it. I contacted our waste management division at Division of Environmental Quality, DEQ, and they came in and met the company. Not only was the company able to sell the bundles of leftover cotton, which gave them money, company money, this did not go to the landfill and saved a fire hazard. So exciting that something like that can happen. So what's the bottom line? I can't help everyone, but there are a lot of great partners here in the state, and I want to connect you. Small Business Technology Development Center, business plans, saving money, trading international. If I can help your business succeed and help you with the partners, then that's the best part of this team. Thank you, Laura.
Thank you, Melanie. And thank you again for all the great work that you do to help businesses continue to succeed and thrive here in Charlotte. We are very fortunate to have you in this region, and I'm glad to have you as a partner of the Alliance. So thanks for that, Melanie. So we know that this pandemic is going to end. The vaccines are soon going to be available, and I think we all know that hopefully the end is in sight. VJ and George, I want to ask you guys, in just a few sentences, tell us about how you foresee the pandemic changing the way you operate your business over the long haul. George, let me start with you. George, you're still on mute. That's okay. We're all used to it.
Thank you. Now, I'm going to speak on the silver lining, because I strive to find that in pretty much everything we do in business. And for us with the pandemic, it has cleaned up our processes. It has forced us into streamlining, purchasing automated equipment, allowing our workforce to hyper focus on internal growth. We run a lean operation, which we're very fortunate for that. But again, we've had to really examine our processes under a microscope. And, I think we'll come out of this pandemic stronger and better suited for the next challenge. And, you know, I've really seen the importance of networking and making connections, not even for the benefit of our business, but for our clients. And, you know, taking care of clients in a way that you know, is out of the box and non-traditional is something that we're going to carry over, because there's always something that we can do to improve the conditions. And, you know, I think we see that far more clearly now that we've been through hopefully the brunt of the pandemic. Thank you.
Thanks, George. Yes, I appreciate that. Let's always look for those silver linings.
Yes.
Yes. VIJAY, how about you?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with all of you that we're going to have a certain return to normalcy, but the pandemic seems like it's going to create a permanent shift in the way we do business moving forward. You know, things that we took for granted before we're going to take some time to really feel comfortable doing those things. Just customer visits, trade shows, travel, you know, those were things that everyone was on a plane all the time, you know, shaking hands in Oregon, and then the next day being in San Francisco, and the next day being in Colorado. I mean, and then maybe in China or Europe within like 2 weeks. And those instances, as they will come back eventually, are still going to be different. So I think for us, just growing, we believe like really diversifying our markets more to reduce risk is incredibly important. We also, though, instead of just focusing on product, we want to increase what we provide as a corporation. So not only what we have done for 40 years as far as producing yarn, we've really focused on being full service supply chain management, managing all the way from technology to end product for our consumers and for the consumer in the marketplace, and really creating that opportunity for brands and customers to come to us. And then developing new technologies and entering different industries that traditionally have not been textile based is really something that we see. And I think all businesses are exploring new opportunities that are different than what they had been accustomed to in the past. So, I mean, perpetual innovation is Premier Fiber's tagline. And I mean, we've kind of really taken that to heart, to be not only applying to our products, but also to our evolving business. So that's really, I think, where we see going forward.
Thanks for that, VIJAY. I think that's a great tagline, especially for today's economy and this pandemic. And I'm a hugger, so I'll be glad when this is over so I can shake hands and give hugs, because it hurts my feelings not to give people hugs. But
yeah, that's a really tough part.
So you know, we're all getting comfortable with Zoom, but you really can't replace that face-to-face interaction. You know, we're all humans and we like that human connection, and I don't think we get that quite as much over Zoom. But better days are ahead, and I look forward to giving you all a hug someday soon. So thank you for that. Before we go back to Chris and Rod, I do want to switch back to Melanie very quickly and ask Melanie if she will just provide some quick information about Stream 2021. Melanie?
Thank you, Laura. We are so excited. So one of our answers to the pandemic is to help businesses grow. We want to help your businesses connect to suppliers here in the region. If you're struggling with supply chain because the airplanes are down and you can't get something here from the United States or international, maybe it's made locally and you didn't know it. Stream 2021 will be a virtual trade show, planned to be in person the following year, but in virtual February of 2021. Registration is now open. Exciting that this is a partnership. EDPNC, South Carolina Department of Commerce, Charlotte Business Alliance. We have all 17 economic development groups in the Charlotte region have all partnered to help us make this happen. You'll be hearing from your economic development groups. If you want information today, please reach out to me. I can send you a link very quickly. I hope you do put it on your calendars and join us February 16, 17. Thank you, Laura.
Awesome. Thank you, Melanie. Yes, we're very excited about this opportunity for our regional manufacturers. So please check out Stream 2021 and plan to join us in February. So I think we can all agree that there is optimism about the future of the Charlotte region and North Carolina in general. So Chris and Rod, give us one sentence on why we should be optimistic here in North Carolina and the Charlotte region. Rod, I'm going to go to you first.
Okay, I think the reason that we can be optimistic is because in North Carolina, we have the infrastructure, we have the location, and we have the leadership that will carry us through and beyond this pandemic and create a successful environment for us in the future. And I'll have to add a second sentence, but only because I need to mention the people that we work with, the people that are running these small businesses, the people like VIJAY and George. We have some really great people that are digging in and giving it all, not only for their companies, but for the employees that they have and for the communities that they operate in as well. So I'm very optimistic about our future here.
Well said, Rod. Thanks so much. Chris.
You know, I think you said it earlier, Laura, it's about the fundamentals. I mean, whether that's a robust education system, whether that's a talent pool that keeps growing because we're producing more talent, but also attracting people to move here, whether it's some of our quality of life amenities or a diverse economy. We've got all of it in North Carolina, and I think that's going to continue powering us well after when COVID-19 is hopefully just a distant memory. And then, of course, just we've been lucky to hear great stories like Premier Fibers and Mammoth Machine. Again, companies that have been not only resilient, right, but they've innovated, adapted, and they're actually prospering now in spite of the pandemic. I mean, these are the companies at the end of the day that make up our economic well-being because they are creating jobs, they're making investment, they're generating tax base. And I think that's probably, you know, the biggest cause for optimism after 6 of these webinars is just hearing all these great examples all across North Carolina of companies that have figured out how to soldier forward in spite of a really challenging environment. We've been lucky to help some of them. We hope we get to help even more of you all as you contemplate the future. And again, thank you for all you as business owners for what you're doing in North Carolina.
Chris, you're right. You're spot on. We're figuring it out. And, you know, we are in times that none of us have ever seen before, and hopefully we will never see again. And we're figuring out, and I think that's what we have to be optimistic about it. The work and the preparation that's been done in the Charlotte region and North Carolina as a whole this year is going to position our state, I believe, to come out of this pandemic stronger and quicker than a lot of other states in the nation. So a lot to be thankful for. You know, in Charlotte, in our region, the population growth remains high. The value proposition remains true. We have a phenomenal international airport, favorable cost of doing business, great education systems, good transportation and infrastructure. I can't say enough, you know, people are still moving here because they want to live and work here. So our value proposition remains very strong. And then last of all, in this region, there's a real commitment to regionalism on behalf of the economic development organizations, the local chambers of commerce, the private sector, the public sector. This region is really unified, and I know that we'll continue to grow and thrive as one, and we'll come out of this pandemic stronger and faster than other areas. So that's why I am bullish on the Charlotte region in North Carolina. So as we're nearing the end of our time together today, again, I just want to thank you all again for participating, for joining us today. Thank you to our great panelists and to Chris Chung and his fantastic team at EDPNC. Can't say enough about you guys and our partnership with you all. But before we conclude today, I want to ask John to provide us with a few closing remarks.
Sure. No, thank you, Laura, and thank you again very much for hosting this today. I'd like to thank our audience as well for joining us. I've often heard it said that economic development is a team sport, and there is absolutely true. And hopefully you gained some insight today on the value all of our partners can offer when we work together, from the Economic Development Partnership of North Carolina to the Charlotte Regional Business Alliance, Rowan County Economic Development Commission, to amazing businesses like Premier Fibers and Mammoth Machine and Design. To close, I'd just like to remind our audience that EDPNC is here to serve North Carolina businesses all across the spectrum, all sizes, all needs, all industries, in all 100 counties. As Melanie mentioned earlier, every day brings us a new challenge. As you heard her describe some of the things that she's been working on, literally every day brings us something new. And we take it as our responsibility to get businesses the answers they need to those challenges. We can help you find new opportunities. We can help you navigate those interesting circumstances. And here on the screen, you can see a list of some of the services that we provide at no cost. And I encourage you, as a follow-up to this meeting, to get to know Melanie. She is our regional manager here in the Southwest region, and I think you'll be very glad you did. So with that, I'll say thank you all very much for joining us, and have a great day.